Okay. For segment number 3, you're all in the field of psychology. Could this have any implications for the field of clinical psychology? Can you share a little bit, Tal, about it?
So, say if you come in with a concern and they're asking you to recall some information. I guess if you try to recall something like a traumatic event or just anything that had an effect on you, there are a bunch of things that can kind of affect that, like your emotions and how you've been influenced.
So just to repeat for the recording here, if you're asked to come in, and many times when you go see a clinical or counseling psychologist, you're asked to recall memories, aren't you? And many times these memories focus on what particular aspect of your life. What part of your life do a lot of psychologists focus on? Childhood. Might you have some very strong memories of things back from your childhood? You may. What would the Loftus and Palmer study say about the potential accuracy of these memories?
Not very accurate at all.
Say again?
It wouldn't be accurate.
They may not be accurate. What does the therapist have to be very careful about doing there?
How they're wording their questions.
They have to be very careful on how they're wording their questions. Now, sometimes these memories are very accurate, and sometimes people who have been in abusive situations, violence in some situations, sometimes they come back clear as day, right? You're asking a few questions, and all of a sudden, I know I had a friend in graduate school, and I was chatting with her one day, and that night she actually remembered being sexually abused, and it was terribly traumatic for her, and went over her house, tried to comfort her a bit, and sometimes they come back as, those are called flashbulb memories, come back as flashbulb memories. Have people ever dealt with those types of situations before? They can be very traumatic for people, and they can be very truthful as well. They can be very accurate, where all of a sudden you kind of repressed it for a while, but then, oh my God, this was done to me by this person, and da-da-da-da-da. So that could be a very accurate type of memory. But sometimes, the way the therapist words things, would that really affect your recall of the event? It can. We're talking about something sometimes 10, 15, 20 years ago. You were staring at a video for 10 seconds and you all had different answers for it. 20 years ago, do you think your memory might be an accurate thing? Maybe, maybe not. What we now know is that memories, long-term memories, and kind of the big picture here, long-term memories can be changed. They're not this kind of set in stone thing that is just there. They can be changed by post-event information. The way a therapist words a question, and there's been a whole new group of people out there Does anybody have their iPhones with them or their computers with them? Do you have your computer or your iPhone with you? Do me a favor and look up just for a minute or so. I'm going to put this on pause. False memory syndrome. I'm going to ask you to look that up. False memory syndrome. Turn the pause off. False memory syndrome. What is it? What are you guys finding on false memory syndrome? Ashante, are you able to find anything on it? What are you seeing about it?
I just got some history section about
3 sections? I'm just repeating for the recording.
well, it says something about like psychotherapists trying to reveal repressed memories, or like within that act, like things being changed.
So many times repressed memories are there, right? I mean, there can be some very nasty things that happen during one's childhood but therapists have to be very careful with that. What else are we finding on false memory syndrome? Bella, are you finding anything?
So false memory syndrome is this condition where a person's identity and relationships are affected by memories that are factually incorrect, but they very strongly believe. So someone may say that they were sexually abused as a child when in fact that they weren't, but the memories are so strong that they believe that they are.
So sometimes we have, this is clinical psychology, false memory syndrome. If you remember something and it is so strong and so real to you, but later on, what do we find out? It didn't actually happen that way. Can this have strong legal repercussions? Yeah, if you're accused of sexually abusing X, Y, and Z, and this happened and that happened, very, very destructive on the whole family. So if you're ever going to be a clinical psychologist or a counselor, you have to be very, very careful about leading someone down the garden path. Childhood is a very important time of development, but we've even seen that when you're staring at a screen for 10 seconds, you all recall different speed estimates. These are 10, 15 years ago. This is me and my brothers and sisters driving in the car or sitting in the car going to Milwaukee. We all have very strong memories of what actually occurred, but each story is actually radically different. So you have to be very careful about this false memory syndrome. Anything else you're reading on the site for false memory syndrome? It can be painful sometimes. Sorry, Hannah just said it now over there. Integrating student comments into class discussion. Anything else you're finding about false memory syndrome there?
I also read that it can sometimes come up through recovered memory therapy.
So recovered memory therapy is very real and can be very useful, but you really have to be careful here because, once again, we are staring at a video for 10 seconds and you all had different speed estimates, so you have to really be careful about the accuracy. People many times just assume long-term memory is what?
Accurate.
Just factual and accurate. Just now we know in cognitive psychology that what can really influence it. What do we call that information? You all saw the same video. Post-event information can have a dramatic effect. Time, 10, 15 years, these can have a dramatic effect. This actually came up a little bit in some of the Bill Cosby stuff.
Yeah.
Were a lot of people sexually abused by Bill Cosby? It appears that the answer is yes on that, but did they come out and actually say that? Not at the time it happened, and then there's a statute of limitations, and once it was made public, did a lot of people kind of share their stories of this and that, and then we have the famous Hollywood producer as well, and some other characters that we won't go into here, but statute of limitations, that are they factual, are they accurate, and this can have real implications on things. Comments or questions about this? So this is very important. Will this go into your lab write-up? Any of this stuff in your lab write-up? No. Your lab write-up, and you can send me drafts. That'll be due on, I think we decided, Tuesday by 4 p.m. God bless you.
Thank you.
Are you all right? Tuesday by 4 p.m. You'll need to write up what for that paper? Method section and discussion. Method should be very straightforward. Discussion, summarize the main findings. Try to do that in 3 sentences. Then the idea of strengths and weaknesses, or relating it to the literature. That's what we talked about in the last class. Short-term, long-term memory, obstacles. You need to have at least 5 original references for your discussion besides the ones we talked about in class. Future studies, strengths and weaknesses. Will there be a lot of weaknesses? You could say external validity, that we had a very small sample, but at the same time, then you can say this has been replicated in a lot of studies. It was the not Loftus and Palmer, it was the Bauer study, and come up with a few future ideas on things. So feel free to send me drafts of that, and I'll be happy to look at that for you. Okay, we got that done.